Always true.
Last week, South Africa found itself at the centre of an unexpected international incident. A chartered flight carrying 153 Palestinians from war-torn Gaza, many without exit stamps, slips or clear travel plans, landed in Johannesburg, catching authorities completely off guard. For nearly 12 hours, the passengers remained on the runway as officials tried to piece together who brought them there, how they left Gaza and what their status was. They were eventually allowed to disembark. President Cyril Ramaphosa called the mission mysterious. Others called it chaotic. But the event has raised urgent questions about the nature of networks that are moving Palestinians out of Gaza as Israel's war grinds on. And it comes at a moment when South Africa is shaping some of the most consequential global debates, from the genocide case it brought against Israel at the International Court of Justice to the upcoming G20 summit, which Pretoria will host amid a shifting world order and fierce geopolitical competition.
I won't refer to anything having to do with South Africa. South Africa has behaved extremely badly.
Stay with us as South Africa's Foreign Minister walks us through what happened on that flight and how Pretoria sees its role in a world reshaped by conflict, diverse agendas and geopolitical pressure. Ronald Lamola talks to Al Jazeera. Ronald Lamola, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Thank you so much for talking with Al Jazeera today. Let's start with the chartered plane carrying Palestinians from Gaza that landed in South Africa. Many say that this is Israel's way of advancing its ethnic cleansing of Gaza. First of all, can you just give us an idea, what, if anything, did South Africa know before this plane landed?
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, we view it as a wider project of ethnic cleansing or depopularization of Gaza, because it was an abrupt landing with no prior plan or any agreement with the receiving state. And that now is a subject of our investigation. We are looking at the matter to investigate the circumstances that led to the flight and where it came from, who was involved, and all the parties. And also, as you are aware, we will then be able to make a further determination with regards to the matter.
So before it touched down near Johannesburg, authorities there in South Africa had no idea who was on board, what the plan was at that point in time?
Yeah, obviously, authorities had some idea with regards to the fact that there's a plane that it's coming, as is a normal procedure. But the fact that it is carrying the number of Palestinians and who have been removed from Israel is something that is still a subject of investigation. And that's why we have also been very clear that this does seem or look, we have got a suspicion that it might be part of a wider campaign to depopulate or of ethnic cleansing of Gaza or the West Bank as a whole. And it is for that reason that the South African government will not be accepting any further planes of this nature that will be landing on our shores. If anything happens in future, we will definitely turn back the plane with its passengers. But at this stage, because of the circumstances of the abrupt landing, we had to apply humanitarian grounds. That's why we allowed it to dock on humanitarian grounds.
There was a similar chartered flight before this one, back in October on the 28th. Passengers on board that flight told people in Johannesburg that they had family coming over on this November flight, the second flight on November the 13th. Did that not raise any flags with authorities at all?
Yeah, it did. It did raise red flags. Hence, authorities started to red flag some of this. But as you are aware, if planes come from different angles, and it does seem like this one came through from Kenya, you will not know exactly what are the intentions and who is landing and all that. You will just have the list of passengers as per the normal aviation procedure when there is no agreement of receiving Palestinians between the South African government and the Palestinian Authority. So that is what the South African government says. There was no agreement between us and the Palestinian Authority for such people to be coming to South Africa as part of a resettlement plan. So hence we say we will no longer accept any further plane landing on our shores. And with the ones that have already landed, there is an ongoing investigation and they were allowed in on humanitarian grounds.
Well, some human rights groups have criticised South Africa's handling of this situation, the fact that they were sitting on the tarmac for 12 hours on the plane. Do you believe that authorities handled this as best they could?
Yes, they did, because in any airport procedure, you will have to know who is in the flight, what are the reasons, and so forth. So all those procedures had to be attended to. And a decision also had to be taken, whether to turn back the plane or to allow it to land and dock on the humanitarian grounds for the passengers to alight. And finally, a decision was made to allow them to alight on humanitarian grounds. And they've done as best as they could.
Do you feel slightly powerless in this situation? Because obviously it's very difficult, like you were saying earlier, to actually stop these planes from arriving, and you can't actually do anything till they are on the ground. Is that frustrating at all if flights do continue to arrive in South Africa?
No. You can be able to, once there is clear line of information that you can follow up, and that's why now our authorities are on high alert with regards to all the incoming planes from many parts of the world to ensure that this type of situation does not arise again.
OK. This group behind these charter flights, the Al-Majd Europe group, what do you know about them? What have you been able to uncover so far?
As I've said, it's a subject of investigation, but obviously I have seen from various investigative journalist reports the type of group they are. But as a state, we are still investigating not only the group, all the players in the whole saga.
Have you been able to uncover any more information about the group's ties with the Israeli army and the defense ministry?
As I've said, on our side, it's a subject of investigation, but we have seen a number of documentaries, investigative journalists, opinion pieces, and so forth that are describing the group. But as a state, we are doing our own investigation. OK,
will that be part of the investigation, though, Israel's military and government ties to this group?
Yes.
OK.
Yeah, everything will be investigated. Where does it come from, the reasons and all that, yes.
What's happening to the people that has already arrived? I understand they're on these 90-day visas. What's the longer-term plan for those who've been forced out of Gaza here?
Yeah, obviously, as you will know, we allow them to come in on humanitarian grounds, and the NGOs in South Africa offered to provide support during the duration of their stay, the 90-day period. And within this period, we will have concluded also our investigations as to how do we then take the matter forward.
OK, what specific support are they getting now, and will they get into the future?
The specific support they are receiving is from the NGOs that have accepted to support them, to give them shelter. And obviously, it will also go to food and maybe medical care needs that will be there. It's those humanitarian support needs that they are being provided for by the NGOs.
Is there an assurance for people? Al Jazeera has interviewed a number of them who do want to stay in South Africa long term. Do they have an assurance that they will be allowed to?
No, we don't offer such an assurance. As I've said, we view this as part of an ethnic cleansing program and of depopularizing the Gaza Strip. So they will obviously be subjected to our own laws in the country, and that process will then determine the way forward.
Linked to all of this is your government is pursuing legal action against Israel at the International Court of Justice. You're accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. Ethnic cleansing is obviously a part of that. Can you just outline for us, why is this case so important for the country of South Africa?
Yeah, as we have said several times before in Al Jazeera, your media outlet and various platforms, including in the courts, South Africa knows apartheid, has got a history of apartheid, and when we see it, we have got to act because, as you are aware, our founding president said South Africa will not be free until also the Palestinians are free. And what is currently happening in the Gaza Strip is a clear policy of Israel apartheid. And this has also been confirmed by the opinion of the International Court of Justice. But the killing, the destruction of civilian infrastructure, the murmuring of innocent civilians, children, women, has been unprecedented in recent times. So that needed the intervention of the International Court of Justice, and in our view, it suits the definition of genocide.
Some legal experts have said that the most challenging task of South Africa's case will actually be to prove that Israel intended to commit genocide in Gaza. How confident are you that the court will rule in your favour eventually?
Yeah, as you are aware, we have submitted a comprehensive document in the court, which details in with forensic precision the information, the intent, including the speeches of the Israel authorities, which were very clear that this is about ethnic cleansing. Some of it saying we must finish them, Amalek, and so forth. So there is overwhelming evidence which shows intent from Israel authorities at the high level. So that has been our submission, which shows the intent, which shows clearly why they, and it is also on that basis that the International Court of Justice found that there is plausible genocide.
This, by its very nature, is a very long, drawn-out process. I mean, it officially began in December 2023 when you filed the application to begin proceedings. We could hear the final judgment might not be pronounced until 2027 or even as late as 2028. Are you worried about the length of time that this is going to take? Because we've got a ceasefire in place at the moment. You've just seen the UN Security Council resolution that's adopted this Donald Trump 20-point peace plan. A board of peace is going to be put in place, as well as this international stabilisation force. I mean, with all of these developments, could that actually be used by Israel as evidence that it has not actually acted here with genocidal intent?
Yeah, we are concerned of the length and the time it takes, but we knew when we started the proceedings that the proceedings in the International Court of Justice can take time. And it is for that reason that you will remember that we went to the court back 3 times. And in all those times, we did get an outcome that we had requested from the court, provisional indication measures for Israel to stop and cease fire and the hostilities. So the court will have to decide on the merits. Remember, the court is going to deal with issues of accountability, of what has already been done and what has happened, and whether there's evidence or not. And we believe we have got sufficient evidence to prove to the court that indeed it has happened. What is currently happening on the political front is necessary. We have always called for that, for the cessation of fire, for finding peace, for negotiations, because South Africa believes in a diplomatic dialogue and negotiations to find long-term solutions and peace. But it's a separate process from the court one, which the court one is seeking accountability.
It seems like more and more countries are really pushing back against some of these institutions like the ICC, the ICJ and the United Nations as well. I mean, do you have confidence still in the effectiveness of the international justice system and that can still be held up as the gold standard when it comes to cases like this?
It is the only hope of the poor countries and developing ones. Because if the international justice system, the rule of law, cannot withstand difficulties, only the might will be right, and there will be no rule of law in the world. So it is for that reason that member states of the UN, signatories to the Rome Statutes and to all these institutions need to stand up and protect and defend them. And it is against that background that South Africa worked with Colombia to form the Hague Group, which is aimed to protect and defend international law, the rule of law. It is also against this background that South Africa will continue to participate in multilateral institutions like the UN, to continue to advocate for the UN Charter. And as you are aware, we are also hosting the G20 in Johannesburg. We continue to assert the importance of international law, assess the importance of the UN Charter, also the importance of multilateral institutions. So this forum in South Africa, in Johannesburg, will be about asserting the importance of multilateral institutions, and we look forward to achieve an ambitious declaration that will enable us to speak to various issues of international law, the UN Charter, but also on the issues of economic justice for the world, the reform of the financial architecture as per the Pact of the Future, the financing for development that was agreed for in Seville, the Pact of the Future as per the UN General Assembly resolution, but also to shine a spotlight on issues affecting the African continent, issues of climate change, when we receive less than 5%, whereas we are disproportionately affected by climate change, financing for development. Countries are funding war more than they are funding development. Issues of critical minerals. The African continent is 30% endowed with critical minerals. So we look forward that the G20 must endorse resolutions that must beneficiate at source in the global south, in the African continent, to enable industrialization in the continent, manufacturing, which will power the Africa free trade area. This will be the first of its kind in the African continent, and global leaders who will be here to discuss a number of these issues.
Yes, indeed. One leader that won't be there at the G20 is Donald Trump. You recently said that he is pursuing a white supremacist agenda. Why do you think that?
Yeah, firstly, it's because of the executive order that for someone to qualify as a refugee in this resettlement program, it's based on race. Firstly is that you must be white, and secondly is that you must be an Afrikaner. So this goes with the agenda of MEGA in the US, the DEA, which is an antithesis of what South Africa is. South Africa fights for inclusion, fight for diversification, fight for equality and sustainability. So this is a clear agenda, as you have said, to pursue fear-mongering amongst whites, because the whole world knows that there is no genocide happening in South Africa. And we do not believe that a sophisticated country like the US can believe such falsehoods, because they do have sophisticated technology, satellite capability
Yes.
that can enable them to verify with ease whether there is such genocide happening in South Africa or not. And we know that for sure. They do know in the White House, in the State Department, and in the US that there is no genocide happening in South Africa. So the only thing that could justify this is an ideological issue.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but I just want to get an idea of where you think the relations are between South Africa and the United States. We heard Donald Trump say when he was speaking with Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office in that meeting that South Africa is a disgrace. How do you negotiate when it comes to trade and things along those lines with a country whose leader believes that of you?
Yeah, South Africa is not a disgrace. We are a thriving democracy. We have got an independent judiciary, an independent media, and with a global index, which showed us that we are one of the countries that are thriving in terms of free speech and free media. So this is a beacon of hope. We do have challenges, indeed, like crime, corruption, which we are dealing with and responding to. And the issues that he has raised are domestic issues of in relations to expropriation of land with or without putting an amount, but including the issues of BEE and affirmative action. These are domestic issues which we have got enough safeguards to deal with through our courts, through our parliament. There is participation. And a huge number of Afrikaners in South Africa, including organizations of Afrikaners, have said they do not support this. There is no genocide. There is no such a thing. But we do have challenges that as a country we need to confront, and that is what we are working on. It's a work in progress. As you are aware, we're 30 years into democracy, and we continue to build on that. And with regards to the G20, we are going to continue to adopt a declaration without the United States because they are absent and they will have to be marked as absent. The institution cannot be paralyzed by the absence of the United States of America. But
this war of words with the US president, that is extremely detrimental to the people in your country, isn't it? I mean, he's whacked a 30% tariff on you. The Africa Growth Opportunity Act has expired and is not going to be extended. So this is really detrimental to your people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a price you pay for being principled, for standing for the truth. And we believe we have to stand for the truth for the world in terms of the rule of law, in terms of the UN Charter, and also in terms of the agenda we've put for the G20, which will be inclusive, sustainability, equality. So this is an important agenda for people of the world. But as South Africa, we have also embarked on a very aggressive campaign of a diversification in of our exports into the various countries of the world. And we are glad that many countries across the globe are able to work with us, to trade with us. Obviously, the US is the biggest trading market, which remains very important. And it is for that reason that we keep our doors open to engage with the US. And our Trade Department has got the lines of engagement with their counterparts in Washington, and we keep that line open.
You say that this is the price that you have to pay, but it is for standing up for your principles. But it is a high price. I mean, the end of the Africa Growth Opportunity Act puts 300,000 direct jobs and 1 million indirect jobs in jeopardy in South Africa. What have you been able to do to try and cushion that? Were you prepared at all for the end of AGOA?
Yeah, indeed, it is a concern to us. It's a high price, and hence we have done everything to negotiate with the US because we still view them as very important strategic partners. But there is a reality that we are facing, and we are beginning to prepare for the worst-case scenario. And it is for that reason that we are diversifying our markets in the various parts of the world, including ensuring that we continue to anchor our trade on the AfCFTA in the African continent. which has always anchored our trade because most of our goods are traded in the African continent and also in Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East. So that is what we are focusing on now to diversify our trade and goods, and we will also look into the Americas in the new year. So that is what we are working on, so that we are able to cushion our economy and also in relations to trade, but we'll continue to broaden this horizon of diversification.
The G20, obviously this is hugely significant for your country. Trump is not attending. The US is in fact boycotting the whole summit. There are reports that the US had spent the year since the Donald Trump administration came into power drawing new red lines, skipping working meetings and basically refusing to negotiate at all. How difficult has that made preparations, and how successful do you think this meeting can be without having the United States there?
Yeah, indeed, the US will be absent, and we will mark them absent and continue with the business of the G20. It will definitely be challenging to implement because they are the second biggest economy, or they are the first biggest economy in the world. They are the biggest economy in the world. The G20 is largely about an economy. So it is indeed going to be challenging. But we believe that the countries of the world, if they work together, we pull all our eggs together, we can be able to keep the world going. We should not be paralyzed by the absence of one country, because all G20 members have got equal status.
Indeed. Is it the time now, with everything that has been going on in the world in recent years, to look, I guess, to have more cooperation between southern countries, south to south, rather than looking to traditional Western allies?
Yes, we, as you are aware, have always continued to participate on and to build on a south-to-south cooperation through the BRICS platform, through IPSA, and many other multilateral forums that are aimed to ensure that the Global South is brought to be in par with the rest of the Global North. And it is also against this background that our theme speaks to the issue of bridging between the Global North and the Global South, and issues of critical minerals, artificial intelligence, climate change, issues of financing for development, the reform of the international financial architecture, so that also the Global South benefits the same way.
Ronald Lamola, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, thank you so much for talking with Al Jazeera. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and to the viewers.